And when I saw the silver BMW blocking my driveway, my heart sank with that feeling you get when you know something is very wrong. It was December 22nd, 6 p.m., and the chilling aspen cold was already sharp enough to bite. I'd driven 4 hours from New York City just for some peace. Peace? What a joke. The second thing I noticed was the light on in the living room, all the lights, the entire lodge glowing like a Christmas tree, and I knew I'd left everything off when I was last here. In September. My stomach churned. You know that feeling when your house isn't your house anymore? I parked my Toyota Corolla right there on the street, my hands trembling slightly on the wheel. It wasn't fear. It was anger mixed with a sadness so deep I can't even explain it. Because deep down, really deep down, I already knew who was inside. Before I continue, tell me in the comments what city you're watching this from. I want to know if you've ever gone through something similar with a child or family member who disrespected you in your own home. I grabbed my purse, took a deep breath, and got out of the car. The frigid mountain air hit my lungs like a knife. 20 degrees, maybe less. I walked to the main door, and that's when I heard music, laughter, the clinking of glasses. A party. In my lodge, on my property, that my Arthur and I built with the sweat of 40 years of work. The key turned in the lock without resistance. Of course, he had a copy. I gave it to him myself years ago when I still thought my son was a decent person. The door swung open and the heat from the fireplace hit me full in the face. The living room was packed. About 8 people I'd never seen before. All well-dressed, wine glasses in hand, smiling. And there, in the leather armchair that belonged to my husband, the armchair where Arthur spent hours reading the paper on Sundays, was him. Richard, my 45-year-old son, a beer belly pushing against a designer shirt too expensive for a man who didn't work, holding a glass of the scotch I kept for special occasions. The 30-year-old Glenfiddich that cost $400 a bottle. He didn't even like scotch. He was only drinking it because it was expensive. Our eyes met. And you know what I saw on his face? Not shame, not surprise. Panic. The pure panic of someone caught red-handed. He shot up, nearly spilling his drink. "Mom? What are you doing here?" His voice was strained and high-pitched. The conversation stopped. Everyone looked at me, an 81-year-old woman at the door in my wool coat and my usual brown purse, looking like an intruder. "What am I doing here?" I repeated slowly, the anger starting to burn in my throat. "Richard, this is my house." I saw his face shift to that expression I knew from his childhood, when he'd break something and try to invent an excuse. Only now he wasn't a child. He was a grown man who had invaded my property. A blonde woman, attractive in her 40s, approached him. It must have been his wife, Patricia. I only knew her from Facebook photos. "Honey," she whispered, confused. "Who is this?" And that, people, that's when my son showed his true colors. He took a deep breath, straightened his shoulders, and looked at me with a disdain I will never forget. Never. 100 years could pass, and I will remember that look. "Everyone," he said loudly, getting their attention, "don't mind her. She's just an old woman who used to work for my grandfather a long time ago. She sort of thinks she has rights to this place." The silence that fell over the room was so heavy you could hear the logs crackling in the fire. Worked for his grandfather. Thought she had rights. I, Catherine Miller, who founded Miller Textiles in 1976, who employed 200 people, who bought this property with my hard-earned money, was being called a crazy old servant by my own son. My legs went weak. I held onto the wall to keep from falling. "Richard." My voice came out faint and I hated it. Hated sounding fragile in front of those strangers. "Mom," he cut in sharply, at least having the nerve to call me that. "You shouldn't be here. We agreed I'd use the house for the holidays." A lie, a bald-faced lie. We hadn't agreed on anything. He hadn't spoken to me in 8 months, not since March, when I told him I would no longer pay the rent on that ridiculous penthouse on the Upper East Side. $15,000 a month. $15,000 for him to live in a 3,000 square foot apartment, while I, the one with the money, lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Astoria. An older man with gray hair stood up from the sofa. He wore a simple plaid shirt and jeans. He had a kind face, you know. The kind of person who's worked their whole life and doesn't owe anyone anything. Richard, the man said, looking at me with some concern. This lady seems a bit confused. Shouldn't we call someone? A doctor, maybe? Confused? Me? Richard seized the opportunity like a rat finding cheese in a trap. Yes, Dad, he said to his father-in-law. She has some issues, senile dementia. She makes up stories about owning properties and having money. He laughed. My son laughed at me. Poor thing. My grandfather took care of her out of pity after her husband died, but now she lives in this fantasy world. I looked at him, and I swear it was like looking at a stranger. How could a baby I carried in my womb, who I nursed, who I woke up for in the middle of the night when he had a fever, be doing this to me? His wife, Patricia, took his arm in solidarity. Honey, what a difficult situation. You should have told me she had these episodes. Episodes? I'm having an episode, sir? I said, looking at the gray-haired man who had mentioned a doctor. My voice was firmer now. My name is Catherine Miller. I am the legal owner of this property. I bought this land in 1984 with my husband, Dr. Arthur Miller, and we built this lodge in 1985. It's all registered with the county clerk. Oh dear. A woman who must have been Richard's mother-in-law sighed with pity. See, John? She's just like that neighbor of ours, who got the same way. Thought she owned the supermarket. Comparing me to a neighborhood crazy? Really? Richard took a step toward me, tall, strong, intimidating. Mom, you're making a fool of yourself. These people are my family, my in-laws, my brother-in-law, Patricia's cousins. We came to spend Christmas here, at my country house. Now please, let's handle this calmly. I'll call Dr. Evans, your geriatrician, and we'll take you back to New York first thing in the morning, okay? Dr. Evans? I didn't even have a geriatrician. The man was inventing doctors' names now. Get out of my way, Richard, I said quietly, dangerously. He didn't move. Or what, Mom? What are you gonna do? It was then that a younger guy, maybe around 30, put down his beer and stared at me with a strange look on his face. Wait a minute, he said. I know this woman. Everyone looked at him. What do you mean, you know her? Patricia asked. The guy pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and showed the screen to the room. Man, I remember this article. My mom was a seamstress and worked at her factory in the 80s. Catherine Miller from Miller Textiles. She was like a famous businesswoman. She was even in Forbes once. The silence returned, but this time it was different. Now there was doubt in the air. Richard turned white as the snow that sometimes falls here in Aspen. Kevin, you're confused. He tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. It's just a resemblance. No, dude. The young man zoomed in on an old photo on his phone and showed it. Look at the picture. It's her. It's exactly her. Patricia snatched the phone from her cousin's hand. I saw her eyes flick from the screen to my face, from my face back to the screen, the penny dropping in slow motion. Richard, she said slowly, you told me your family disowned you, that you were a self-made man, that you bought this house with your own investments. There it was, the first lie crumbling. Her father, John, stood up too, took the phone, and read the article aloud. Catherine Miller, founder of Miller Textiles, ceased the company's operations in 2010 after nearly 40 years of success in the industrial garment industry. The entrepreneur, widow of Dr. Arthur Miller since 2015, stated she intends to dedicate herself to her family and enjoy her retirement. He looked at his son-in-law. Richard, what is this? My son opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. He looked like a fish out of water. John, I can explain. Explain, I said, and this time my voice was hard as stone. Explain to these people how you took the key to your 81-year-old widowed mother's house and invaded her property. Explain how you're drinking the scotch that belonged to your father. Explain how you called me crazy in front of everyone. The older woman, his mother-in-law, put a hand to her mouth. Oh, my heavens. It's not like that, Richard tried. Mom, you're confused. I told you I was coming, remember? You must have forgotten because of your age. I haven't forgotten anything, Richard. You haven't even answered my calls in months. Mom, and another thing, I continued, reaching into my purse for my phone. If you think I'm lying, how about we settle this right now? I'm going to call the police. Let them check who owns this property. I saw the panic explode on his face. No, don't do that. For God's sake, it's Christmas. Let's handle this as a family. Family? I repeated. You just called me a crazy freeloader in front of strangers. What family, Richard? Patricia took a step back, away from her husband. You could see the confusion on her face, the realization dawning, piece by piece, the puzzle fitting together to form a very ugly picture. Richard, she said, her voice trembling, tell me it's not true. Tell me you didn't lie about all this. He looked at his wife, looked at me, looked at his in-laws, and then he made the worst possible choice. He attacked. Of course I lied, he exploded. You think I was going to tell you my mother is a tightwad who cut me off just because I asked for a loan? That she has millions stashed away and won't help her own son? That she prefers to live like she's poor in some crappy little apartment while I'm slaving away to pay the bills? Millions? Slaving away? My God, the lies were endless. Richard, I said, tired. You don't slave away at anything. You never have. I paid for your business degree that you dropped out of in your 3rd year. I paid for that apartment you rented to start a company that you never started. I still pay for your lavish lifestyle while you haven't worked a single day. Patricia turned pale. What do you mean? He doesn't work? He's an investor. He has a portfolio of... He has nothing, I cut in. The money that funds your lifestyle comes out of my bank account every month. A scheduled transfer for $22, $0, fixed, plus whatever he spends on the supplementary credit card, which is usually around $40, $0. I did the math in my head quickly. $62, $0 a month. $744, $0 a year. How many years had I been supporting this grown man? Since he got married in 2015? Almost 10 years. $7 million. $7 million. I had given my son the equivalent of $7 million in 10 years, and he repaid me by calling me crazy in my own home. Richard's brother-in-law, a thin guy with glasses, let out a nervous laugh. Dude, this isn't real. It can't be. Oh, it's possible, I said, and I can prove it. I'll open my banking app right now and show you the statements. No, Richard nearly shouted. You're not going to do that. You're not going to humiliate me like this. John, the father-in-law, approached slowly. He looked me right in the eye, the way simple, honest people do, searching for the truth. Ma'am, are you serious? Everything he told me, his company, the investments, this house. All lies, sir. All of it. I saw a tear roll down the face of his wife, Susan. She sat down heavily on the sofa, like someone who'd just been punched. John, she whispered to her husband, we were going to give him the money to invest. My heart went cold. What money? John ran a hand over his face. Our retirement savings. I retired in November after 32 years as a steelworker. I combined my 401k with my severance. It came to $87,000. My wife had another $23,000 saved from a workers' comp settlement. We were going to... He looked at his son-in-law with a disappointment so profound you could feel it. Richard said he knew a good investment fund that would double our money in 2 years. I felt my blood pressure rise. My son wasn't just lying, he was stealing. Stealing from honest people who had worked their entire lives. And you were going to give him this money when? Tonight, Susan answered, her voice broken. He said he needed to make the transfer before the end of the year for tax reasons. Of course, taxes, the perfect excuse. I looked at my son and, for the first time in my life, I felt disgust. Real, stomach-turning disgust. Richard, I said, each word weighing a ton. You were going to steal $110,000 from your in-laws? It's not stealing. I was going to invest it for real. I needed the money temporarily to cover some expenses. What expenses? Patricia finally snapped. What expenses, Richard? Our bills are paid. You told me last week that everything was under control. It is. I needed. He was drowning in his own lies. It was at that moment I heard the sound of a car pulling up outside. Then, firm steps on the wooden porch, and the door opened. 2 sheriff's deputies entered, hands already on their vests, assessing the situation. Good evening, the older one said. We received a call about a disturbance and a possible trespassing at this address. Everyone froze. Richard found his voice first. Officers, thank God you're here. He pointed at me. This woman broke into my house and is disturbing my family. She has mental problems. The younger deputy looked at me. An old lady in a wool coat, brown purse, grandmotherly face. Then he looked at Richard, a tall man, luxurious house, confident. I know exactly what he thought. But the older deputy, the one who'd seen it all, he didn't judge by appearances. Ma'am, did you make the call? He asked me directly. No, but I should have. This property is mine. This man, I pointed at Richard, is my son, and he has invaded my home. She's lying, Richard yelled. Officers! This is my country house. Mine. I have the documents. Then show me, the deputy said calmly. I saw the ground fall out from under my son because, of course, he had no documents. I didn't bring them. They're in New York, in a safe. How convenient, the deputy replied. And you, ma'am? He looked at me. I opened my purse, took out my phone, and opened the county clerk's app my accountant had taught me to use. The deed, I showed him the screen. Registered in 1985. Catherine Miller Social Security number. Shall I read it to you? The deputy took my phone, checked the authenticity of the digital document, verified my ID, then pulled up some system of theirs on a tablet. 3 minutes of silence. 3 minutes in which you could hear Richard's heart about to beat out of his chest. Ownership confirmed, the deputy said. Ma'am, you are indeed the registered owner of this property. Patricia let out a sound that was half sob, half gasp. John collapsed onto the sofa, his head in his hands. And Richard. Richard looked at me with a hatred so pure I could feel it in my veins. Mr. Miller, the deputy said, did you enter your mother's property without permission? I didn't break in. She gave me a key. I did, I confirmed. 3 years ago. For emergencies, not for throwing parties without my authorization. Mom, for the love of God, don't do this. Sir, could you come with me, please? The deputy asked Richard. We'll have to file a report. It was in that moment that everything became crystal clear to me. I looked around. I saw my husband's bottle of scotch half empty. I saw the expensive wine glasses Arthur and I had bought in Napa Valley. I saw the fire lit with the wood I had paid for. I saw my house, my sanctuary, my last piece of peace, invaded and desecrated. And I looked at my son, at that 45-year-old man who had never, not once in his life, said thank you for anything I did for him. I picked up my phone again. This time, I opened the banking app. Excuse me, I said to the deputies. Just 1 minute. I searched my contacts, found it. Mr. Elliot Vance, Chase private client. I called. It rang twice, 3 times. Mrs. Miller, his surprised voice answered. Is everything all right? It's Christmas Eve. I was just... Mr. Vance, I'm sorry to bother you, but I need you to do something for me right now, immediately. Of course, Mrs. Miller, what do you need? I looked my son straight in the eyes. I need you to block and cancel all supplementary credit cards on my account, all of them, and halt all scheduled transfers in the name of Richard Miller. Silence on the other end. Mrs. Miller, are you sure? These are significant amounts. Absolutely sure. Mom, no. Richard took a step toward me. The deputy held him back. Mom, you can't do this. I have bills. I have commitments. Anything else, Mrs. Miller? I thought of the apartment, the penthouse on the Upper East Side, $15,000 a month in rent that I paid via automatic debit. Yes. Cancel the rent payment that comes from my account. The address is... No. Richard tried to grab my phone. The deputy had to restrain him firmly. "You can't do this to me. I'm your son." "The account nickname is apt. Richard," I continued, ignoring him. "Cancel everything, Mr. Vance. And the BMW lease, too." "It will be done now, Mrs. Miller. The cancellations should process within 2 hours." "Thank you, Mr. Vance. Happy holidays to your family." I hung up. Richard was literally being held back by the deputy, his face red, veins bulging in his neck. "You've ruined me. You've destroyed my life." "No, my son," I said, exhausted. "I just stopped paying for it." His phone started pinging, a notification, then another, then 3 more. Probably the transactions being declined, the payments canceled, his world collapsing. Patricia looked at her husband as if she'd never seen him before. John looked at his daughter with a sadness that broke my heart. "Patricia," he said quietly, "get your things, we're leaving." "Dad." "Now, sweetheart." People started to get up, grabbing coats, purses. No one spoke. Just the sound of footsteps on the wooden floor. Richard tried to reach his wife. "Patricia, honey, wait. We can talk, I can explain." She pulled away, not even looking at him. Within 15 minutes, everyone was gone. The house was empty. Just me, Richard, and the 2 deputies. "Ma'am, do you want to press formal charges?" the older deputy asked. I looked at my son, my only son. The baby I had rocked to sleep, the boy I had taken to school, the teenager I had comforted after his first breakup. "No," I said. "But I want him off my property. Now." Richard stared at me. I saw his anger turn to desperation. Mom, please, where am I going to sleep? I don't have money for a hotel. You just blocked everything." "You should have thought of that before you called me crazy." "I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry." But it wasn't a real apology. It was the desperation of someone who'd lost their meal ticket. "Mr. Miller," the deputy said, "let's go." They escorted him outside. Through the window, I watched my son get into the car he could no longer afford, start the engine with gasoline he could no longer buy, and drive off down the dark road. I locked the door. And then, alone in the silent house, with the fire crackling and the aspen wind howling outside, I broke down. I sat in Arthur's armchair, the one Richard had desecrated, and I cried. I cried for everything, for the lost years supporting a man who despised me, for the Christmas I would spend alone, for the son I had lost, not to death, but to greed. I cried until I had no tears left. Then I wiped my face, stood up and went to the fireplace. I picked up the framed photo of my Arthur that sat on the mantel. "Did I do the right thing?" I asked the picture, the man who knew me better than anyone. "Tell me I did the right thing, my love." The photo didn't answer, of course, but deep down I knew I had. For the first time in 10 years, I had set a boundary. I had said no. I had chosen myself. And it hurt. God, how it hurt. But it was the necessary kind of pain, like pulling a rotten tooth. It hurts in the moment, but then it heals. Does it heal? You, listening to me, tell me, if it were you, would you have done the same? Or did I go too far? Because on that night, Christmas Eve, alone in the cold mountains, I wasn't sure of anything. I only knew I wasn't going back. I slept poorly that night. When you've been on this earth for 81 years, your body doesn't let you forget it. My back ached, my knees complained, and my mind wouldn't stop spinning. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Richard's face. That hatred, that desperation. Had I been too cruel? I got up at 6 a.m. when the sun was just beginning to peek over the mountains. I made coffee in the Italian press Arthur and I had bought on a trip years ago. I sat on the porch with my mug, wrapped in a wool blanket, watching my breath form little clouds in the cold air. The cell phone rang at 6:47 a.m. Richard. I ignored it. It rang again at 6:52. Ignored. A text at 7:03. Mom, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Another at 7:15. Please just answer. At 7:28. Are you happy now? Did you get what you wanted? To destroy me? I turned the phone off. But the thing is, turning off your phone doesn't turn off your mind, does it? There's no button for that. I sat there on the porch, drinking my now cold coffee because I'd forgotten about it while I was thinking, and asking myself for the 1,000th time if I'd done the right thing. That's when I remembered something. The spreadsheet. I had a spreadsheet on my home computer with all of Richard's expenses. Everything. Every transfer, every credit card payment, every bill. My accountant, Mr. Davis, had insisted I document everything as a precaution. A precaution for what? I didn't know at the time. Now I did. I went back inside, turned on my old laptop. It took a good 5 minutes to boot up, poor thing. It was time for a new one. And opened the file. Richard Expenses 2015-2024 XLSX. My God. I started reading line by line, and with every number, my stomach churned more. January 2015. Rent $8,400. Credit card $12,340. Car $3,200. Total $23,940. February 2015. Rent $8,400. CC $18,760. Car $3,200. Total $30,360. March 2015. $8, $400, upsheet and 9, $880 a plus 3s, $200, $21, $480s. I scrolled down, down, down. 10 years of spreadsheets, 120 months. The scheduled transfers were always a fixed $22, $0. But the credit card, my God, the credit card varied wildly. There was one month with $67 euro in dollars, $67,000 on a credit card. I clicked on the details tab that Mr. Davis had created. There it was, all itemized. Every purchase, every location. December 2019. Credit card details, St. Regis Aspen Resort, $18, $400. Lodging. Apple Store, iPhone 11 Pro, max 1 hour, $299. The French Laundry Restaurant, $3, $240. Rodeo Drive Shops, $4, $560. Armani, Lacoste, Hugo Boss. Gas station, $890. Wine cellar, $6, $700. Equinox Gym annual membership, $4, $200. Other $27, $711. Total $67,000. I remember that month. I remember because it was the year I spent Christmas alone. Richard said he was traveling for work. For work. He was in the Hamptons at a luxury resort, spending almost $20 Suzhou dollars in 5 days while I ate reheated turkey at home. I kept reading. March 2020. Details, Dr. Kevin Smith. Cosmetic procedure, $15,000. Note, hair transplant. My son had gotten a $15,000 hair transplant with my money, without telling me. June 2021. Details, Torno Jewelers, Rolex Submariner, $14,000, $14,000 on a watch, while I wore the same Citizen watch Arthur gave me in 1998. I felt bile rise in my throat. July 2022. Details, BMW dealership, down payment, new BMW X5, $15,000. Note, first lease payment, $1,200 month, August 2023. Details, restoration hardware, apartment furniture, $28, $700. Samsung 75-inch TV, $2, $400. Other $8, $340. Total, $39, $440. He had furnished the entire apartment, spent almost $40 US on furniture and electronics for the apartment whose rent I was paying. I scrolled to the very last line of the spreadsheet, the total line. Transferred funds, 2015-2024, $2, 640 euros. Supplementary card expenses, 2015-2024, $4, 922, 340. Rent payments, 2019-2024, $900, $0. Vehicle payments, 2018-2024, $89, $600. Total spent, $8, 551, 940. $8.5 million. My vision blurred. I don't know if it was tears or high blood pressure. Probably both. $8.5 million that I could have donated to charity, that I could have used to travel, to see the world I never saw, because I was always working, that I could have left in a trust for entities that truly need it. $8.5 million thrown into a bottomless pit named Richard. And you know what was worse? He had never said thank you. Not once. It was always, I need it, Mom. An emergency came up. It's an investment you wouldn't understand. I picked up the phone, turned it back on. 37 missed calls from Richard since I'd turned it off. 37. 15 messages on WhatsApp. I opened them. 7. 45 a.m. Mom, call me. 8. 12 a.m. I need money for a motel. I have nowhere to sleep. 8. 8:34 a.m. Patricia isn't answering my calls. 9:03 a.m. Her parents aren't either. 9:27 a.m. My card was declined at the gas station. I looked like a beggar. 9:51 a.m. Don't you have a heart? 10:15 a.m. Remember when I was little and you said you'd always love me? 10:33 a.m. Now I know that was a lie. 10:58 a.m. You hate me. 11:24 a.m. I hope you're happy. I typed a response, deleted it. Typed another, deleted it again. In the end, I wrote, Richard, I don't hate you, but I will no longer finance your life. You are 45 years old. It's past time for you to get a job. The reply came in seconds. A job where? My whole resume is a lie. I haven't done anything for the last 10 years. Who's going to hire me? And there it was, the confession in writing. 10 years without working. 10 whole years living exclusively off my money, building an elaborate lie, fooling his wife, fooling his in-laws, fooling everyone but me. I always knew. I just pretended not to. Why? Because he's my son, right? And mothers have this stupid idea that love fixes everything. It doesn't. I typed back, then you start at the bottom, like everyone else. Like I did when I was your age and opened my factory. Salesman, cashier, stalker, whatever you can find. Honest work is no reason to be ashamed. Are you crazy? I have a college degree. I'm not going to be a cashier. The degree you dropped out of, and yes, you will work at whatever you can get. Because the tap has been turned off, Richard. It's over. I saw the 3 dots indicating he was typing. They stopped, came back, stopped again. The message that came through chilled me to the bone. I'm going to tell everyone you're an unnatural mother who abandoned her son. I'll sue you for abandonment. I'll go on social media. I'll go to the newspapers. I will destroy your reputation. A threat. My own son. Threatening me. I took a picture of the spreadsheet on my laptop screen. I sent it to him. Go ahead, and I'll show this to anyone who wants to see it. 8. 5 million in 10 years. Let's see who public opinion sides with. The 81-year-old mother who supported her adult son for a decade, or the parasitic son who threatens his own mother. The dots disappeared. They didn't come back. I blocked his number. I felt terrible and relieved at the same time, you know? Like ripping off a Band-Aid. It hurts, but at least it's over. The landline rang. I almost didn't answer, thinking it was him calling from another number, but then I saw the caller ID. Davis, accountant. I picked up. Mrs. Miller, good morning. Is everything all right? Hi, Mr. Davis. Everything's fine. And you? Mrs. Miller, He hesitated. Did you really cut Richard off? News travels fast. I did. Last night. Thank God. He sighed with relief. Forgive my frankness, but I've been telling you to do this for years. I know, Mr. Davis. Did you see the spreadsheet? I just saw it. 8.5 million. 8,551,940, he corrected with an accountant's precision. But Mrs. Miller, there's something else you need to know. My heart sped up. What is it? I received an email from the bank's legal department this morning. Richard tried to take out a loan using the Aspen Lodge as collateral. The world spun. What do you mean? He went to a bank, presented forged documents claiming the property was in his name, and tried to get a $300 loan using the lodge as collateral. $300. My lodge, my history with Arthur, our memories. He was going to use it as collateral for a loan. When did this happen? Last week, Thursday, the 14th. The bank checked the documents, saw they were fraudulent, and denied it on the spot. But they opened a fraud investigation protocol. Mrs. Miller, your son could face criminal charges for this. I felt my legs give out. I sat down in a kitchen chair. He was going to lose my house. If the loan had been approved and he didn't pay, yes, the bank would have foreclosed on the property. My house, my refuge, my last piece of peace, he was going to take it from me. Mr. Davis, what do I do? You don't have to do anything. The bank has already taken legal action, but I suggest you also file a police report to protect yourself from future attempts. He could try again. He might, but now that there's a fraud alert on his social security number, it will be much more difficult. I thanked him, hung up, and just sat there, staring at the wall. My son had tried to steal my house. It wasn't just greed anymore. It was malice. I don't even know what it was. Sociopathy, psychopathy. I didn't understand those things. I only knew that the boy I raised no longer existed. Maybe he never had. The phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Miller? A young female voice. My name is Patricia. We saw each other yesterday. She choked up. I'm Richard's wife. Hello, Patricia, I said, not knowing what tone to use. I need to speak with you in person, please. Patricia, I don't know if... I found things out, she cut in. Things you need to know about Richard, about what he was planning. Please. There's a tone of voice you can't fake. You know that genuine desperation? She was desperate. Where are you? At a hotel here in Aspen, the Hotel Jerome. My parents went back to New York this morning, but I had to stay. I needed to understand. Come to the lodge. Do you remember the address? I do. Can I come now? Yes. She arrived 40 minutes later. When I opened the door, I barely recognized the woman from the night before. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, her face swollen from crying, no makeup. She looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Come in, I said. Would you like some coffee? No, She came in, looked around. Mrs. Miller, I need to apologize. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know anything. Sit down, child. We sat on the sofa. I took her hand and she just broke down, cried like a child, sobbing, her whole body shaking. I let her cry. Sometimes that's all a person needs. When she'd calmed down a bit, she sniffled and wiped her face on her sleeve. I was married to him for 10 years, thinking he was a businessman, an investor. He showed me statements, contracts, PowerPoint presentations of these incredible projects, all fake, all of it. I know, dear. My parents, she continued, her voice trembling, they've been working since they were 14. My dad was a steelworker his whole life. My mom was a seamstress, then a caregiver for the elderly. They saved every penny of that $110,000. And Richard, she couldn't go on. He was going to take their money. Worse, he already took some. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? She took out her phone, tapped a few times, and showed me the screen. It was a WhatsApp conversation between her and her mother. Susan, today, 9:23 a.m. Honey, did you know Richard borrowed $3,500 from your father in October? Said it was for an urgent investment opportunity. Patricia, 9:24 a.m. What? Susan, 9:25 a.m. Your father transferred it the same day. Richard said he'd pay it back in 30 days with 15% interest. Patricia, 9:26 a.m. Mom, he never paid it back, did he? Susan, 9:29 a.m. No. And when your father asked about it, Richard said the investment went bad, that he'd lost everything, but that he'd pay it back no matter what. He just needed time. Patricia, 9:32 a.m. Mom, send me the transfer confirmation. I looked at the screen. Mrs. Miller, Patricia said, her voice hard now. I went to the bank this morning. I pulled the statements for our joint account for the last 6 months. She showed me another screenshot. Spent his father-in-law's hard-earned money on an iPhone, a steakhouse party, and clothes. There's more, Patricia continued. She was in a cold fury now, the kind of anger that comes after an illusion shatters. In July, he borrowed $20,000 from my brother, said it was to pay a supplier for an import deal. A lie. He spent it all on a weekend in the Hamptons that he claimed was a business trip. She kept showing me screenshots, confirmations, conversations. March, $15 from her cousin to invest in cryptocurrency, spent on sneakers and a watch. December 2023, $28,000 from her aunt to expand the business, spent furnishing the apartment. In total, Patricia did the math on her phone's calculator. He borrowed $138 from my family in the last 2 years. $138, and he never paid back a cent. I didn't know what to say. Mrs. Miller, I came here to ask for your forgiveness on behalf of my family. We didn't know She choked up again. You are victims too, dear. You have nothing to apologize for. But yesterday, we treated you like you were crazy. We believed him instead of you. He's good at that, manipulating people. She was quiet for a while, looking at her own hands. I filed for divorce this morning. I sent him a text. I don't even want to hear his voice again. Did he reply? He did. She gave a humorless laugh. Said I would regret it, that I was nothing without him, that no one else would ever want me. The same manipulations, the same pattern. Patricia, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you work? I used to. I was a store manager at Zara, made about $6,000 a month, but Richard convinced me to quit 3 years ago, said I didn't need to work, that he made enough for both of us. Of course, financial isolation, a classic abuser's tactic. And do you have any money saved? I have about $8,000 in a savings account my grandmother left me. That's it. $8,000 to restart her life from scratch at 40. Do you have a place to stay? I'm going back to my parents' house in Newark, at least until I find a new job. I stood up, went to my room, got my checkbook, came back, and wrote one out. For $50, $50,000. I tore it out and gave it to her. Mrs. Miller, I can't. Yes, you can. Consider it restitution for what my son did to you and your family. But, Patricia, I have money. You don't. Take it and use it to start over. Rent an apartment, buy clothes for job interviews, take a course, whatever you need. She looked at the check. The tears came back. Mrs. Miller, why are you doing this? I was horrible to you yesterday. Because you're his victim too, and because... I took a deep breath. Because I created this monster. I spoiled him, I enabled him, I gave him money every time he asked. Part of the blame is mine. So, in a way, I owe this to you. She hugged me, a tight hug that said more than 1,000 words. When she pulled away, she wiped her face and put the check in her purse. I will pay back every cent as soon as I can. You don't have to. I will, she insisted. I don't want anything that comes from the Miller family, nothing that reminds me of him. But I will use this money now because I need it, and I will pay it back out of honor, for the honor he never had. After she left, I kept thinking. $138, Oruro from Patricia's family. A $300 RR fraudulent loan attempt in my name. 5 million of my money. How many other people had he deceived? How many other victims were out there that I didn't even know about? I went back to the computer, opened his Facebook page. The last post was from a week ago. 143 likes, 22 comments. Congrats, bro. Success. You're an inspiration. When are you going to give that investment course you promised? An investment course. He was going to teach an investment course. I scrolled more. Found other posts. September. A photo at an expensive restaurant, celebrating incredible results with my team. Leadership is service. July. A photo of the BMW. New toy. The result of hard work and focus. Earned this one. June. A photo with Patricia on a beach. Well-deserved vacation in the Hamptons with my love. Work hard, play hard, all lies, every post, every photo, every caption, an entire life of lies. I read the comments, people asking for investment tips, people wanting to have coffee to discuss opportunities, people admiring him. And none of these people knew they were admiring a 45-year-old man supported by his elderly mother. I thought about making a post, exposing everything, showing the truth. But then I remembered what my Arthur always used to say. Catherine, vengeance is God's business. You just take care of you. So I did nothing. I just closed Facebook and breathed. I had done enough. I had cut off the money, set the boundary. Now it was up to him. The phone rang, another unknown number. I answered, thinking it was Patricia. It was Richard. Don't hang up, he said quickly. Please, just listen to me. I almost did, but something made me stay on the line. I'm screwed, Mom, completely screwed. I know. No, you don't. His voice broke. I'm in some cheap motel in Poughkeepsie, paying $89 a night because that's what I could afford with the cash in my wallet. My card is blocked. My bank account is empty. Patricia filed for divorce. Her parents won't talk to me, and he sobbed. My 45-year-old son sobbing on the phone. I have no one. A part of me wanted to give in. That motherly part that always wants to protect, always wants to save. But I held firm. And I need you, he cried out. You're my mother. You can't just abandon me like this. Richard, I didn't abandon you. I just stopped paying for your fake lifestyle. But I have nothing. Nothing. Not even for food. Then get a job. Doing what? I don't know how to do anything. Learn. Silence on the other end. Then very quietly, do you hate me that much? And then I told a truth that hurt me as much as it hurt him. No, Richard, I don't hate you. I love you. I will always love you because you're my son. But I don't like you, and I don't trust you, and I will never give you money again. Ever. I heard his crying intensify. Please, no. Just one more time, just so I can get on my feet. No, Richard, it's over. I hung up, blocked the number, and cried. I cried because a mother's love doesn't end, but sometimes it has to be tough. It has to be firm. It has to say no, even when every fiber of your being is screaming to say yes. I cried because I had lost my son, not to death, but to greed, and maybe I would never get him back. I cried because I was 81 years old, alone in a lodge in the mountains, and the only son I had in the world hated me. But I also cried with relief, because for the first time in 10 years, I was no longer being drained, no longer being used. I was free. And freedom, I discovered on that cold December day, sometimes hurts more than prison. But it's still freedom. 3 days passed after that call. 3 days of absolute silence. No messages, no calls, nothing. Part of me was worried. That motherly part that never completely shuts off, you know? But every time I picked up the phone thinking of calling him, I remembered $8, $5 million, $138,000 from Patricia's family, the attempt to forge my house deed, and I put the phone back down. It was December 25th, Christmas Day. I spent the morning alone, heating up a frozen lasagna I'd brought from New York. I tried not to think about how different Christmases were when Arthur was alive, when the house smelled of turkey and gingerbread, when there was laughter and music and life. Now there was just silence and an 81-year-old woman eating alone. The landline rang at 2 p.m. It was the doorman from my building in New York. Mrs. Miller, sorry to bother you on Christmas. No problem, Frank. What is it? There's a young man down here wanting to come up. Says he's your son, but he's... A pause. He's a bit agitated, you know, upset, yelling that he needs to get some things from the apartment. My heart pounded. Frank, do not let him up. Please. Are you sure, ma'am? He says he has a key. He does have a key, but I have not authorized his entry. Do not let him up. If he insists, call the police. Understood, Mrs. Miller. I could hear Richard's voice in the background, faint but clear. Is she there? Put her on the phone. Mrs. Miller, he wants to talk to you. I don't want to talk to him. Please hang up. I hung up before I heard the response. 5 minutes later, my cell phone rang. Unknown number. I ignored it. It rang again. Ignored. WhatsApp. A message from a number not in my contacts. Mom, it's me. Answer me. I just need to get my things from the apartment. My clothes, my documents. Please. I didn't reply. Another message. I'm on the street. Literally on the street. The motel kicked me out because my money ran out. I need clean clothes, at least. I still didn't reply. You're going to leave me on the street on Christmas. I blocked the number. But the guilt came like a wave, drowning me. My son on the street on Christmas, and here I was with a whole house to myself. I called Frank back. Frank, is Richard still there? He is, Mrs. Miller, sitting on the sidewalk. Let me speak with him. I heard the sound of the doorman leaving his station. The footsteps, his voice calling, "Richard, your mother wants to talk." Silence. Then Richard's hoarse voice. "Mom? Richard? You can get your things, but I'm going to tell Frank to accompany you. You take only what is yours. Clothes, documents, personal effects, no electronics, nothing I bought. Understood?" "Mom, Understood? I understand." And then you give him back the key, all of the keys, for the apartment and the lodge. "But all the keys, Richard, or I'll have the locks changed today and you'll get nothing." I heard him swallow hard. "Okay. Frank, please accompany him. Don't let him out of your sight and call me when he leaves." "Will do, Mrs. Miller." 40 minutes later, the phone rang. "Mrs. Miller, he's gone. Took 2 suitcases of clothes and a backpack with documents. He left 3 keys here with me." "Thank you, Frank. Hold on to the keys. I'll get them when I'm back." "Mrs. Miller," he hesitated. "Can I say something?" "Go ahead." "Your son, he didn't look well. Thin, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, and he was crying. He cried the whole time he was here." The guilt tightened its grip. "Thank you for letting me know, Frank." I spent the rest of Christmas trying not to think. I watched television without paying attention. I tried to read a book but read the same page 4 times without understanding a word. I slept poorly again. The next day, December 26th, I decided to go back to New York. I couldn't stand being alone in that lodge full of memories anymore. I packed my things, locked up, and hit the road. I got home at 6 p.m. The apartment was just as I'd left it. I went straight to the room that used to be Richard's when he lived with me before he got married. Empty. He'd taken everything, even the hangers. But there was something on top of the dresser, a white envelope with my name handwritten on it. I picked it up, felt its weight, opened it. It was a letter, 3 pages, handwritten in that messy scrawl of Richard's that I knew since he learned to write. I sat on the bed and read, "Mom, I don't know how to start this letter. I've written and thrown away about 10 versions, but I need to try again because this might be the last chance I have for you to hear me out without hanging up or blocking my number. I messed everything up. I know that. There's no point in trying to make excuses or justify it. There's no justification for what I did to you, to Patricia, to her parents, to everyone. I've spent the last 3 days sitting on a park bench in Poughkeepsie, with no money, no anything, thinking about how I got here. And the truth is, I don't have an answer. When did I become this guy? When did I stop being your son and turn into this monster who used you, who lied, who tried to steal your house? I remember when I was a kid, and you worked late at the factory. I remember waiting for you to come home for dinner, even if it was 10 p.m. I remember you being tired, but always having a smile for me, always asking how school was, if I'd eaten properly, if I'd done my homework. And I remember when Dad died, how you suddenly seemed so small, like you had shrunk. But even then, even destroyed by grief, you kept taking care of me, assuring me everything was okay, that we were going to be okay. And I repaid you by becoming a parasite. I have no excuse, Mom. None. I had every opportunity in the world. College paid for, an apartment, a car, money whenever I asked. And I wasted it all. Why? Laziness, cowardice, I don't know. It's easier to live off appearances than to work. It's easier to post pictures of a nice car on Instagram than to wake up early and grind. And I chose the easy way every time. And now I'm paying the price. I lost Patricia. I lost my in-laws who treated me like a son. I lost my friends, who I discovered weren't real friends. I lost my lifestyle. I lost everything. But the worst part wasn't losing all that. The worst part was realizing I'd lost you too. When you looked at me that day in the lodge, I saw it on your face, Mom. It wasn't hatred. It was disappointment. And that hurt more than anything. I disappointed the one person who always believed in me. I'm not writing this letter to ask for money. I've learned my lesson. Finally. I know it's over. I know you won't give me anything else, and you're right not to. I don't deserve it. I'm writing because I need you to know that I am truly sorry. Not because my life sucks now, but because I finally understand the magnitude of the mess I made. Tomorrow, I'm going to my godmother's house, Aunt Sonia's. She agreed to let me stay for a few days. Said I can sleep in the back room until I get myself organized, and I'm going to look for a real job. Anything. Salesman, stalker, delivery driver, whatever comes up. I don't know if I can become a decent person again, but I have to try. Because I don't want to die being remembered as the son who destroyed his own mother. I love you, Mom. I always have, even when I treated you like dirt. I always will. And I'll understand if you never want to speak to me again. I'll understand if you cut me out of your life for good. But if one day, years from now, when I've proven that I've really changed, you give me a chance to have a cup of coffee with you and talk, it would be the greatest blessing of my life. Merry Christmas, even if it's late, even if you spent it alone because of me. Your son who loves you and doesn't deserve to be called your son, Richard. P.S. The keys are with Frank, all of them. I finished reading with my vision blurred by tears. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, placed it in my dresser drawer, and didn't reply. Because words are easy. Written regret is easy. I needed to see action. I needed to see real change. And that would take time. A lot of time. If it ever came at all. The next week passed slowly. I returned to my routine, the market, doctor's appointments, walks in the park, my evening shows, the life of a retired old woman I led before everything exploded. But on January 2nd, I got a call. Mrs. Miller, this is Detective Hayes from the Aspen Police Department. My heart froze. Yes, Detective? Ma'am, a complaint was filed against your son, Richard Miller, for attempted document fraud, correct? It wasn't me, it was the bank. Ah, yes, but the bank filed it on your behalf as the aggrieved property owner. Anyway, I'm calling to inform you that the investigation is complete. We have sufficient evidence to indict your son. Would you like to proceed with the formal charges? Press charges against my own son. If I press charges, what happens? Document fraud to obtain a loan is a felony under the state penal code. He could get 1 to 5 years in prison, but as a first-time offender, he'd likely get a lighter sentence. Community service, a fine, things like that. 5 years in prison, my son. And if I don't press charges? Then the case is dismissed. But it remains on his record. If he ever tries anything similar again, this history will weigh against him. Can I think about it? Of course. You have 30 days to decide. I thanked him and hung up. 30 days to decide whether or not to send my son to jail. I called the most sensible person I knew, my friend Donna, a widow like me who lived in the same building. Donna, I need your opinion. I told her everything from beginning to end. The $5 million, the invasion, the letter, the potential charges. She listened in silence. When I finished, she sighed. Catherine, can I be honest? Please. You've already punished him by cutting off the money. You've already scared him straight. Pressing charges now is just cruel, unless you want to destroy him completely. I don't want to destroy him, Donna. I just want him to learn. Then don't press charges. Let the record stand as a warning, but don't do it. Because if you do, you'll never have peace again. You'll carry the guilt of putting your son in jail for the rest of your life. She was right. The next day, I called the detective. Detective Hayes, I've decided not to proceed with the charges. Are you sure, Mrs. Miller? I am, but please keep the record just in case he tries again. Perfectly understood. I'll have the case dismissed then. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, but the peace didn't last long. On January 8th, a Tuesday, I received a call from an unknown number. Mrs. Miller, my name is Sonia. I'm Richard's godmother, the Aunt Sonia from the letter. Hello, Sonia. How are you? Listen, Mrs. Miller, I didn't want to bother you, but it's about Richard. Is he okay? Physically, yes, but emotionally, she sighed. Mrs. Miller, he doesn't leave the room. He barely eats, doesn't talk to anyone. He just lies there, staring at the ceiling. How long has this been going on? Since he arrived on the 26th, it's been almost 2 weeks. I've tried talking to him. My husband has tried, but he doesn't respond. I'm worried, you know. I think he might be depressed. Depressed? My son? Depressed? Sonia, thank you for letting me know. I'll think about what to do. Mrs. Miller, with all due respect, I know he did terrible things, but he's broken. I've never seen him like this. I think he needs professional help. A psychologist? A psychiatrist? I don't know. I'll see what I can do. I hung up and stared at the phone. Depression. Was it real? Or was it another manipulation? I called Donna. What do you think? I think even a manipulator can have depression, Catherine. The two things aren't mutually exclusive. So what do I do? You pay for a therapist for him, but you make it clear, that's it, just the treatment. No allowance, no apartment, nothing else. It made sense. I searched on Google, found a psychology clinic in Newark near Sonia's house. I called. Good afternoon. How much is a consultation with a psychologist? $180 a session, ma'am. Do you offer a monthly package? We do. 4 sessions a month for $720. $720. Less than I used to spend on him in a single day. I'd like to schedule for someone. I'll be paying, but he can't know it was me. Is that possible? Yes, ma'am. We do that often in family cases. I gave them Richard's information. I scheduled the first session for 2 days later, on Thursday. Then I called Sonia. Sonia, I've scheduled a therapist for Richard. Thursday at 10 a.m. The address is... I gave her the address. Please, make sure he goes. Make up any excuse, but get him there. I'll get him there, Mrs. Miller. Don't worry, and thank you for not giving up on him. Don't thank me yet. This doesn't mean everything's back to normal. It just means I don't want to see my son kill himself. Because deep down, under all the anger and disappointment, he was still my son. And a mother doesn't wish death or depression on her child, no matter how awful he's been. A month passed. January turned into February. Sonia called me every week with updates. Richard was going to his therapy sessions. He had started to leave his room. He was looking for a job. No luck yet, but he was looking. I didn't call him, didn't text him. I kept my distance. But I paid for the therapy every month. $720, the only money I still put into him. In mid-February, Sonia called, sounding more cheerful. Mrs. Miller, he got a job. My heart leapt. Where? At a Best Buy as a salesman. Base salary of $1,800 a month, plus commission. $1,800. The man who spent $60,000 a month was now going to earn what dollars? $800. How is he handling it? At first, he complained a lot, said it was humiliating. But his therapist, Dr. Wallace, talked to him, and now he's accepting it, you know? He still grumbles, but he goes to work every day. That's good. Mrs. Miller, he asked about you, asked if you were doing okay. My heart ached. And what did you say? I said you were fine, that you were living your life. He cried, but he accepted it. Good, Sonia. Another month passed. March. One afternoon, I was at the farmer's market buying vegetables when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Miller? A young woman's voice. This is Dr. Wallace, your son Richard's psychologist. Yes? Could you possibly come to the clinic today? I need to discuss his case with you. Did something happen? Nothing serious, but I need to speak with you in person. Are you available? I can be. What time? 5 o'clock? Okay, I'll be there. At 5 p.m. sharp, I was at the clinic. A receptionist led me to Dr. Wallace's office. She was a woman in her 40s, curly hair, glasses. Mrs. Miller, a pleasure to meet you. Please have a seat. I sat. Doctor, what happened? Nothing has happened. On the contrary, actually. I wanted to talk about Richard's progress. Is he getting better? Yes and no, she sighed. I'll be direct. Your son has strong narcissistic traits. It's not a full-blown personality disorder, but the characteristics are there. And treating narcissism is complicated because the person has to genuinely want to change. Not just say they want to, they have to really want it. And does he? I think so. For the first time in his life, I think he's being honest. He cries in our sessions. He opens up. He acknowledges what he's done. But he's doing it because he hit rock bottom. And my fear is that as soon as his life improves a little, as soon as he has some comfort again, the old patterns will return. It's very common. So there's no cure. It's not about a cure, Mrs. Miller. It's about management. He will have to work on this for the rest of his life. There will be relapses, there will be moments of selfishness, of manipulation. The question is whether he will have the self-awareness to recognize and correct it. And do you think he will? She was silent for a moment. Honestly, I don't know. He's on the right path now, but it's too early to say. That's why I asked you here, to warn you. If he asks to come back, if he begs for forgiveness, don't give in easily. Establish clear boundaries. Otherwise, you'll just repeat the cycle. What kind of boundaries? Never give him money without something in return. If he asks for help, make it a loan with interest and a deadline, not a gift. Never pay an adult's bills for him again. If he wants to live on his own, he needs to work and pay for it. And most importantly, do not accept empty promises. Demand proof of change. Months of proof. Years, if necessary. I mentally noted every word. Thank you, doctor. I should be thanking you for paying for his treatment. Many people would have given up. I've thought about giving up too. But you didn't. And that says a lot about you. I left the clinic thinking about everything she'd said. Boundaries, proof, time. Could my son do it? Could I stay firm? Only time would tell. 6 months passed. 6 months in which I kept my distance. 6 months in which Richard worked at Best Buy, continued the therapy I paid for without his knowledge, and lived in his godmother's back room. Sonia called me every 2 weeks with updates. He had been promoted to senior salesman. His salary had gone up to $400 plus commission, and on a good month, he was making about $4,000 total. He had opened a new bank account without my name on it. He had bought a simple cell phone, paying it off in 12 installments of $89. He was saving money to rent a studio apartment. In July, she called, her voice emotional. Mrs. Miller, you have to see this. I'm sending it on WhatsApp. It was a photo. Richard in his store uniform, holding a certificate. Salesman of the Month, June 2025. He was thinner. The beer belly was gone. His hair was cut simply. And there was something different in his eyes. It wasn't happiness. It was something like dignity. A dignity I had never seen in him before. He cried when he received it, Catherine. Cried like a baby. Said it was the first award he'd ever won in his life on his own merit. I felt a lump in my throat. How is he? Tired. He works 9 hours a day, 6 days a week. His feet are always swollen. But he goes, you know? Every day he gets up at 6, has coffee, and goes without complaining. And the therapy? Religiously. Every Thursday at 10. He's never missed a session. Sonia, does he ask about me? Silence. He asks every week, but I tell him what you asked me to, that you're fine, that you're living your life, and that when you want to talk to him, you'll reach out. Thank you for respecting that. Catherine, can I say something? As a friend, not as his godmother. Of course. I think he's really changed. He's not perfect. He still has moments when he complains, says he deserves better. But then he corrects himself. He stops, breathes, and says, no, I don't deserve anything. I'm lucky to have a job. That's growth, Catherine. That's real change. Or it's sophisticated manipulation. It could be, she admitted. That's why I think you should keep your distance. But maybe, I don't know, maybe in a few months you could give him a chance to talk. In a neutral place, with clear limits, just so you can see it with your own eyes. I thought about it all night, and I kept thinking about it in the weeks that followed. In August, almost 7 months after that horrible Christmas, I made a decision. I called Sonia. Can you tell Richard I want to talk to him? Really, Catherine? Are you sure? I am, but with rules. August 15th, Saturday, noon, at the Corner Bakery on Madison Avenue. Public place. 1 hour of conversation, no more. And if I don't like what I hear, I get up and leave. Make that clear to him. I will. Catherine, thank you. This is going to mean so much to him. Don't thank me yet. This isn't a reconciliation. It's just a conversation. On the 15th, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I changed my outfit 3 times. In the end, I chose a simple light blue blouse and black slacks. I arrived at the bakery 15 minutes early, sat at a corner table, ordered a coffee, and waited. At noon sharp, he walked in. I almost didn't recognize him. The Richard of 7 months ago was a puffy, arrogant man in expensive clothes. The Richard who walked into that bakery was thin, with simple hair, a clean-shaven face, wearing jeans, a plain white shirt, and old Nike sneakers. He saw me, stopped, and I saw fear in his eyes. Genuine fear. He walked slowly to the table. Hi, Mom. Hello, Richard, sit down. He sat. His hands were shaking. He placed them on the table, trying to control them. Thank you for agreeing to see me. I said it would only be an hour, so let's get straight to the point. Why did you want to talk? He took a deep breath. Because I need to apologize to you properly, looking you in the eye. You already did that in the letter. A letter is easy, Mom. In person is hard, and the hard things are the ones that matter. My therapist taught me that. Interesting. He mentioned his therapist without knowing I was paying for her. And which part exactly did you come to apologize for? The 5 million, the invasion, calling me crazy, trying to steal my house, or stealing from Patricia's family? Every word was a knife in him. I saw it in his eyes. For all of it, his voice came out hoarse. For absolutely all of it. There's no excuse, Mom. No justification. I was a garbage human being, a parasite, an opportunist. And worst of all, I was all of those things to the person who loved me most in the entire world. Tears started to stream down his face. He didn't try to hide them. I've spent the last 7 months working from 9 to 6 days a week, selling refrigerators and stoves to make $4,000 a month. And you know what I discovered? What? That there's more dignity in that than I had in 45 years of life, because this money is mine. I sweated for it. I earned it. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. I live in a tiny 10x10 room. I sleep on a single mattress on the floor. I take showers with an electric heater that keeps burning out. I eat meal-prepped lunches that I make myself on Sundays for the whole week. And you know what? I sleep better now than I did in that $15,000 a month penthouse. Why? Because now when I go to bed, I don't have to pretend to be anyone. I'm just me. Broke, poor Richard. But real Richard. For the first time in my life, I'm real. I ordered a glass of water. My throat was dry. Richard, you working and living in a small room doesn't erase what you did. I know. That's why I came here, not just to apologize. I came to tell you what I'm doing to fix it. Fix it how? He took a folder he'd brought with him, opened it, and pulled out some papers. This is an agreement I made with Patricia's parents. I'm going to pay back the $138,000 I borrowed from them. With interest, it's $165,000 total, in 60 installments of $2,750. I looked at the paper. It was official, signed, notarized. And how are you going to pay $2,750 a month if you only make $4? I'll live on $1,250. I pay $800 in rent for the studio I just got. I moved out of my godmother's last month. That leaves $450 for food and transportation. It's tight, but it's doable. And the first payment? I made it last week. I have the receipt here. He showed me. Indeed. A transfer of $2,750 to John Baker. Did they accept? They didn't want to. John said he wanted nothing more to do with me, but I insisted. I went to their house on my knees and begged. I said I had to pay, even if it took me 5 years, and they accepted. Not because they forgave me, but because they saw I was serious. He pulled another paper from the folder. It was a handwritten spreadsheet. Richard's debts, payment plan. Baker family, 165, what are two $750 mo. Start July 2025. Uncle George, 15's $100 or 1 mo. Tentative start July 2030. Cousin Anna, 8 water dollars over 500 ammo. Tentative start July 2031. Other 22,000 dollars to be negotiated after above paid. Total 210,000 dollars. You made a list of everyone you stole from. Stole is the right word, Mom. I stole. I didn't borrow. I stole. And yes, I made a list. There are 16 people in total, and I'm going to pay them all back. It'll take about 15 years, but I'll do it. 15 years. He was planning 15 years of repayments. And what about me? I'm not on the list. He lowered his head. Mom, $8, $5 million. Even if I worked for the rest of my life, I could never pay you back. Never. So I didn't put it on the list because it would be dishonest of me to promise something impossible. So you're not going to pay me back? Not with money, but I'm going to pay you back in another way. How? By being the son you deserve to have from now on. Even if you never fully forgive me, even if you never want to see me again, I'm going to live the rest of my life trying to be someone who would have made you proud. His voice broke again. I can't go back in time and fix what I did, but I cannot repeat it. And I promise you, Mom, I promise I will never use you again. I will never lie to you again. I will never ask you for money again. Even if I'm starving, even if I'm on the street, I would rather die than go back to being that parasite. I just stared at him, looking for signs of a lie, of manipulation, of that glint in his eye he used to get when he was scheming. I didn't find it. I just saw exhaustion, regret, and a sadness so deep it was almost palpable. Richard, how do I know this is real? How do I know you're not just putting on a show to soften me up? You don't, he said directly. You'll have to take a risk, and I'll understand if you don't want to. I really will. But I came here to ask you for a chance. Just one, to prove that I've changed. What kind of chance? Let me be a part of your life again. Not like before. Not living with you, not getting money, none of that. Just let me call you once in a while. Let me visit you on your birthday. Let me take you to the doctor if you need it. Let me be your son again. Even if it's a son from a distance, with limits, with rules, but your son. The waiter came to ask if we wanted to order anything. I ordered another coffee. Richard asked for water. When the waiter left, I took a deep breath. If I agree, it will be with conditions. Any condition, Mom? First, you continue with therapy. I don't know for how long, but for at least another year. I was already planning to. It helps me a lot. Interesting. He didn't know I was paying and was willing to pay out of his own pocket. Second, you never ask me for money, for anything, not even $10 for the bus. If you need help, I will decide if I'm going to help or not, but you never ask. Deal. Third, total transparency. If I ask you where you're working, how much you're earning, where you're living, you answer with the truth. No embellishing, no lying. You can ask whatever you want. Fourth, if you slip up, if you go back to the old patterns, if you lie to me even once, it's over. For good. No second chances. I understand. And fifth, this doesn't mean everything is forgiven. Forgiveness, if it comes, will come with time. A lot of time. You're going to have to earn it, Richard. Every day, every week, every month. I know, Mom, and I will. You'll see. We were silent for a minute. Okay, I said finally. You can call me once a week. Sunday evenings? No more than that. I saw his eyes well up with tears again. Thank you, Mom. You won't regret it. I hope not. We finished our coffee in silence. It wasn't a comfortable silence, but it wasn't hostile either. It was careful. Like we were walking on thin ice and any sudden move would shatter everything. When we finished, he insisted on paying the bill. $18. $50 he paid in cash. I saw his wallet was nearly empty, just a few crumpled ones and tens. We left together. On the sidewalk, he hesitated. Can I give you a hug? I thought about saying no, but something in me relented. You can. He hugged me. It wasn't one of those tight hugs. It was careful, respectful, as if he were afraid of hurting me. "I love you, Mom," he whispered. "I love you too, Richard. I always have. But love isn't enough. There has to be respect too. I know, and I will respect you. I promise." We parted ways. He went one way, I went the other. The following Sunday at 8 p.m., the phone rang. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Richard. Just wanted to call like you let me, see how your week was." "It was good. And yours?" "Tiring. I sold 12 refrigerators. Hit my target." "That's good." Silence. "Okay, I guess that's it. I don't want to take up too much of your time." "Richard?" "Yes?" "How's your studio apartment?" "Small," he laughed humorlessly. "But it's mine." "And are you eating properly?" "I am. I learned to cook, can you believe it? I make a mean rice and eggs." I smiled despite myself. "Take care of yourself, okay?" "I will. You too, Mom." The calls became a routine. Every Sunday, 8 p.m., 15 minutes of conversation. He'd tell me about his week, I'd tell him about mine. Nothing deep. Just connection. In October, 2 months after that coffee, he called with a different tone. "Mom, I wanted to tell you something." "Go on." "I got promoted. I'm a sales supervisor now. The salary is going up to $5, $200 a month, fixed." "Congratulations, son." Son. It was the first time I'd called him that since Christmas. I heard a choked sob on the other end. "Thank you for saying that, Mom." In November, he called me on a Saturday, outside of our agreed time. "Mom, sorry to call at a weird time, but I wanted to ask you something." "What is it? Would you let me take you to dinner for your birthday?" December 3rd. Nothing fancy, just a pizza or something, but I'd like to be with you on your birthday. My birthday, 82 years old. I accept. Really? Really. I'll pick you up. 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock it is. On December 3rd, he arrived promptly at 7, honked the horn. I went down. He was driving a white 2015 Volkswagen Jetta, a little beat up. "Bought it last month," he said sheepishly. "Used. $8,000. Financed over 48 months. It's no BMW, but it's mine." "It's beautiful," I said. And it was true, because it was really his. We went to a simple pizza place in the village. We ordered a medium cheese pizza, $22. He insisted on paying. "Mom, I brought you something." He took a small wrapped gift from his backpack. I opened it. It was a simple, light wood picture frame. Inside was a photo of him and me. I must have been about 50 in the picture. He was about 15. We were smiling, hugging. I found this photo in my old documents. It's from when you took me to see the factory, remember? I remembered. I remembered him being fascinated by the machines, the seamstresses, everything. I had it enlarged and framed. It cost $45. It's all I could afford, but I wanted to give you something that meant something. I looked at the photo, at the boy he was, at the man he could have been, at the man he might still become. Thank you, son. I'll treasure it. We had dinner, talking about simple things. His work, my walks in the park, the show I was watching. Nothing profound, nothing too emotional. But it was real, and it was nice. When he dropped me off at home, I said, "Richard?" "Yes, Mom?" "I still haven't completely forgiven you. It still hurts when I remember everything. But I think maybe one day I can." He nodded, his eyes shining. "I'll wait as long as you need." Another year passed. A year of Sunday calls, of dinners on my birthday and Christmas, of him picking me up for doctor's appointments when I needed, of careful conversations, of slow reconstruction. In that time, he was promoted again. He became the store manager, a salary of $7,800 a month. He rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Newark. Nothing fancy, but respectable. He continued to pay the $750 monthly to Patricia's parents. He'd already paid off nearly $40, zeros and dollars, and he continued his therapy religiously. In December of 2026, almost 2 years after that horrible Christmas, we were having dinner again. "Mom, can I ask you a question?" "You can." "Why did you pay for my therapy all this time without telling me?" I almost choked on my pizza. How did you find out? Dr. Wallace called me in last month. Said she was increasing her rates and asked if I'd be able to afford it. I said I could, since the sessions were free through a state program. Then she got confused and told me someone had been paying. I put 2 and 2 together. I took a deep breath. I paid because even with all the anger, all the disappointment, I didn't want you killing yourself or sinking into depression. But I also wasn't going to give you money directly, so I paid for the therapy. It was the only way I could help you without helping you. Thank you, Mom. You're welcome. I'm going to start paying for it myself now. You don't have to anymore. Are you sure? I am. I can afford it, and I need to pay for it. It's part of being responsible for myself. I nodded. Okay then. Starting in January, you pay. He smiled. Mom? Yes? Have you forgiven me? I was silent. Not completely, I said honestly. There's still a wound. It still aches sometimes when I remember, but I think I'm on the path to forgiveness. Maybe it will never be total forgiveness. Maybe it's more like acceptance. I accept that you did horrible things, and I accept that you're trying to change. And I accept that you're my son, with all the flaws you have. And is that enough for me? Yes. And for you? For me too, he said. Because I don't deserve total forgiveness. I deserve conditional forgiveness. Forgiveness with vigilance. Forgiveness with limits. And I accept that. Because at least it's a chance. We sat in silence, eating pizza, and I thought about everything that had happened in those 2 years. I thought about the $8, $5 million lost, the Christmas alone, the humiliation, the pain. But I also thought about the man sitting in front of me, thinner, humbler, more real. He wasn't the son I had dreamed of having, but maybe he was the son I could have now. Flawed, with a heavy past, but trying. And sometimes, trying is something. When he dropped me off that night, I went up to my apartment, put the picture frame he gave me last year on the living room shelf, and looked at the photo of my Arthur. Did I do the right thing, my love? I asked, as I always did. And as always, he didn't answer. But I think this time the answer was yes. Because I had set a boundary, I had said no, I had respected myself, and yet I hadn't given up completely. I had left a door ajar, not wide open, not locked shut, just ajar. And sometimes with a complicated child, a door ajar is the right balance between love and protection, between being a mother and being a person, between forgiving and not forgetting. I went to bed that night thinking that life really is strange. You raise a child thinking you know how it will be, but reality is always different. More complicated, more painful, but also sometimes more surprising. Richard would never be the perfect son. He would never erase what he did. He would never give me back the $8, $5 million, or the lost years. But maybe, just maybe, he could be a decent son from now on. A son I could have dinner with once in a while without feeling angry. A son who called to see if I was okay. A son who had dignity, however small. And for an 82-year-old mother who's been through so much, maybe that was enough. It wasn't a fairy tale happy ending. But it was a real ending for real people, with a wound that doesn't completely heal, with a love that has limits, with forgiveness that comes with conditions. And it's okay for it to be like that. Because we don't need a perfect ending. We need an honest one. And this, at least, was honest. Thank you for making it to the end of this story. If it touched you in some way, if you've also been through something similar with a child, a family member, or someone who used you and then asked for forgiveness, leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. I want to know that we're not alone in this, because that's the truth. Family is complicated, love is complicated, forgiveness is complicated, but we do the best we can. And sometimes, the best we can do is to set boundaries without losing compassion, to say no without ceasing to love, to forgive without forgetting, and to move forward, scar and all, but to move forward. One day at a time, one Sunday call at a time, one pizza at a time. Until, who knows, the wound becomes just a mark, and the mark becomes just a memory, and the memory becomes just part of the story. Our story. Mine and Richard's. It didn't end that Christmas of 2024. It just changed course. And maybe, in the end, changing course is a victory in itself.